PMI and M&A teams, um, of course, look at exactly the same deal, and they have the same objective. So, from that perspective, they have a common, I would say, a common objective to integrate a company and to realize the synergies at the end of the process. The thing is, usually the M&A team will be involved pre-deal, so before the deal is made, and might disappear afterwards, jumping on another deal. And that's already like a key difference on the way to work. The same way, the PMI team will be most likely I would say will implement the integration process and will be involved after the deal is closed. And without the vision, without I would say all the work done during the due diligence process, might miss some key elements to define the integration. The common issue would be that during the integration process itself, the integration leads would ask something to the new company that has been acquired, some elements, without knowing actually what was said on the same topic before the deal was closed. That would create some, I would say, some problems in the discussions, or maybe erode the stakeholders from the new company would have in the group acquiring them. So of course, there is you need to keep between the M&A team and the integration team some consistency between what was I would say mentioned during the pre-deal phase and what is actually put in place afterwards during the integration phase. So that's mainly the thing. We are looking at the same deal, but we have different sub-objectives, I would say. The deal team wants to close the deal, and therefore will not, of course, take any shortcut for that. But they have the urge to really close the deal and to define a price. So when the integration team has to deal with the issues identified earlier and to find solutions on the ground. So the first team will evaluate risks, when the integration team will actually solve the issues on the ground and find the solutions. Because when you own the company, you own the problems that come with them. To complete, the best is when the integration team is involved in the due diligence phase, and when the deal team is also following up, not very closely, but at least has regular check-ins with the integration team to make sure that we can make this consistency between the pre-deal phase and the post-deal phase a reality, which is very important for the people we are talking to at the new company we acquire. One example of involving the PMI team in the due diligence phase will be that this team, the integration team, will look at the due diligence with a different angle because they have the experience of doing the integration itself, and therefore they might highlight some elements that might be missed by the M&A teams, which will be mainly focusing on the valuation work. But this valuation might be actually factored with some elements that will happen in reality. For example, when I'm involved in the due diligence process, I will evaluate the organization, for example, because I know that during the integration, defining the roles and responsibilities of the people from the company we acquire in the new organization is a challenge. we might have to deal with duplicated roles, or to change some roles titles, or even, I would say, scopes of activity. Um, for example, you acquire a company with an HR director. You already have an HR director. What's going to happen exactly? We cannot have like two HR directors. So there will be, like, of course, different um, levels of responsibility, scope of activities, and that might come quite early, because actually that's going to be the first question this HR director will ask. What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my scope of responsibility? And therefore, they want to know if they are endangered or not, and that could come with big consequences at the end, especially some people leaving quite early on, and that's what we want to avoid, is to destroy any value in the acquisition. They don't necessarily choose to do that, but they usually the, um, the due diligence phase is a sprint where you need to collect very quickly insights and information, and uh, because you don't have much time, you need to prioritize and focus on the main things. So, of course, the valuation exercise is already very difficult. So you will mostly focus on the major elements for value creation and value, um, I would say, our valuation exercise. So you want to evaluate the business, of course, for the synergies and revenue synergies especially. You want to look at the cost, but I would say from a broader perspective. So you're not going to go into much details as much as we go when we are the owner of the company, and we need to solve all the issues and all the problems we can meet. So it's not that the M&A teams do not want to have the PMI around. It is more that they have to prioritize the elements they have to focus on to get to the best valuation for closing the deal, and therefore they will focus on the main elements, and they might not look into the details or all the corners where actually the PMI are used to go, because they have more time for the integration, and actually devil being in the details. That's where they have to dig into during the integration process. Even if for I would say the PMI team or PMI lead involved in the due diligence will not take the stage as much as a CFO or a CHRO, for instance, because we have to leave the room for those people who will evaluate at a high level the value of the company and the price at which we're gonna buy it. Basically, it still gives a lot of information beforehand, a lot of insights for the PMI team to better prepare, to better anticipate all the integration process. Listening to the vendor during the negotiation or during the expert calls will be very important for the PMI team to better understand the business, to better understand the organization, to better understand the dynamics of a company, so to prepare for the integration phase, especially that integration teams, they are expected to provide quite quickly, day one or day 30 plus 30 days, I would say, plans, and this has to be done beforehand. So of course, we cannot and we must avoid by any means to involve the PMI team just the day of the closing, because it's already too late to prepare the day one and to prepare the kickoff of the integration. The first thing is to carefully analyze and I would say listen more than giving advice on the first during the first steps. The first thing is to escalate to the M&A team and to the sponsors to let them know about the insights the PMI team will have found in their gap analysis exercise, for example, that will take place if it did not take place before the closing. that will take place in the early days of the integration. And of course, we need to focus on the key points that might have an impact on the synergies expected. So there will be always surprises. That's I would say that that's the life of the PMI, to discover those surprises, and that's where you need to keep some how can I say, to step back and to assess the situation. I would say in a kind of a cold approach. You don't have to jump on the first thing that goes wrong, because integration is more like a marathon more than a sprint. So we usually have more time to deal with the problems we can find, or the gaps identified later in the due diligence, or early in the PMI phase. As a PMI, I would say the objective is to balance, I would say, short-term objectives, and of course, like to have quick wins, to make the integration kind of concrete for everyone, because that's what is expected by the teams of the company you acquired. They just discover during a town hall or a speech or a press release that they have been acquired. So they would expect some change. So you need to bring some change at some point, for those people, at least to communicate clearly on what's going to change, and if anything is going to change for some times, just to be transparent about that. Then you have to always balance, I would say, the long-term value creation versus the short-term value creation, and that's where a deep dive into the synergies is very important to be done, to understand exactly what will bring value in the next months or years, and actually what will be beneficial for the whole group that we constitute in the very long term. So of course, moving from one CRM to another one, for example, will be something that will most likely have an impact on the sales team, which are on the ground, and they will tell you, we had a CRM, it was working pretty well, and we need to focus on business, because it's not a new CRM that will bring us more clients. But nonetheless, so this is the short term, I would say, feedback we might receive from the sales team or the CEO of the newly acquired company. On the other end, having a common CRM would enable the whole group to share the same base of clients, and of course, in the long term, will help to cross-fertilize, I would say, the client base of both companies. So it has to take place at some point, and this cross-fertilization takes time. So of course, one of the key things to, I would say, balance short and long term objectives and value creation, for instance, on the sales side, will be to go little by little. Maybe not a jump from one CRM to another, but try to identify a couple of clients where cross-fertilization will be interesting to evaluate and to process, actually, and to look into. And I would say just give a trial by organizing something to make a proof of concept that sharing our client base would actually create more value for the whole group. If you do this on a very specific, I would say, example, you create value on the short term with one or a couple of clients. You have a proof of concept that it actually works, and that's where you need to go, and that will help the change management to happen and to explain why do we need to actually merge our CRM databases and why we need to operate on the same CRM at the end. So always start small, but make sure to have results, because it will help to enforce like long-term changes, such as tools migration, for instance. And this is, I mean, the key word is definitely change management, because
Yeah.
integration is a lot about change management. So you cannot make proceed with an integration without having like the change management toolbox at hand, to make sure that you're going to go step by step. You will be able to display some quick wins, to make sure that you will identify the champions of the change that you can work with, because they will be the one who will actually make the change happen within the newly acquired company. I will take a lot of elements from the, I would say, the project management toolbox here, because if it's an integration or just a transformational project or whatever project you run, you will use the same kind of techniques and tactics to surface the problems and to solve them. So I usually say to my counterparts, try to never bring just only a problem, but try to bring some solutions with it. It could be just a couple of options that we can dig into. So therefore, you're already kind of mitigating the problem and mitigating the issues or the risks with already emphasizing on some potential solutions we may have. So it means that we are not in a dead end, just that we discover something, but we have a couple of ideas we would like to dig into with, I would say, managers or sponsors for solving the issues. So that's I would say the first element. Second, it will I would say relate to communication. You're totally right. Um, People will tend, especially when they arrive in a new environment, and that will be the case for anyone from the newly acquired company. They don't want to be the one just bringing bad news in in a project committee or something like that. So they will tend to not raise their hand or just make their point, especially during a project committee where you have like a different mix of people around the table, potentially many people. And in some cultures, actually, it's also something which is like not necessarily a common thing to speak out during a meeting with people you don't know, or just in a setting where you have too many people to interact. So some people are just here to listen, and they will not speak up. So one of the point here I use is actually to have one-to-one connections and meetups with some key people, if possible face-to-face. So that's the reason why during the integration I would travel and I would be on the ground with the teams to better listen to them, because those kind of information, these kind of issues, you might identify them not project communities, but actually at the coffee machine or at the end of a conversation, because at some point when the trust will be there, because people will interact with you face to face, they will be more keen to bring something on the table and say, oh, by the way, I was thinking about that. Maybe it's nothing, but I prefer to tell that to you. And I've been thinking about that. It might be a problem, it might be an issue. What do you think about it? And then the first thing is to listen and to acknowledge, to receive this information, and not being judgmental or not evaluating right away the problem, and just say, okay, we're going to look at that into the details. And what I usually do as well is to ask the permission to the person who just bring me the information, and most likely a bad news, who I can share it with. Can I escalate or not? Do they want to be part of the escalation? So I would ask them, do you want to write the emails to the manager, or do you want me to write the emails and just to add you in copy? So just to make sure that people will be at ease with bringing that on the table. Some people will ask directly to me just to be the one to ring the bell just because I don't want to be the one to bring the bad news. So if I need to carry this bad news to the upper level, let's do it then. But at some point, I will try to identify how comfortable people are with bringing the news, sharing it, or looking for solutions altogether. This kind of little details, little tactics will really help people to actually uh, trust the PMI role in its capacity to play this, I would say, pivot role between the management, the teams, and evaluate, assess the risks and the problems, issues the right way. There's many different ways to assess the situation and to actually read the organization beyond the organizational chart. Um, first clue is to get to know for how long people you're talking to are in the company. Someone who is brand new on a role might have a different authority than someone who is there for the last 15 years, 20 years. Um, Listening carefully to those little details that people will give you during the conversation will also help you better understand their position. I remember a director, for example, who um, just like casually during the conversation mentioned that he was the one who built the tool that the team was using at that time, and we were about to discuss some changes or migration. So of course, when you know this, when you have this kind of this piece of information, you know that this guy will be very protective over this tool because it is this kind of baby, you know. So it will not let it go like so easily. So beyond just the pure value of the tool, of the features of the tool, of the technology that support the processes here, we are talking about like a very personal attachment to the technology and the piece of software we are talking about, and that's going to change totally the dynamics of the discussion. So that would be the a few key elements to pay attention to. So uh, all those details um, connected all together will give you a better understanding on who is really taking the decision, who's going to really pushing in what direction or another, or which opinion gonna weight more in the discussion or in the decisions at the end of the day. For me, the most important thing, so apart from listening, uh, which is like I would say uh, carefully assessing what people say to you and using like active listening techniques, for instance, asking for details, checking out if you and rephrase to make sure that you clearly understand what the people would say, is actually more kind of broader approach of listening somehow, which is um, um, make sure to understand what they say and um, never kind of overstep on other people roles. When I arrive in a new organization and I'm gonna share with experts on different fields, I always tell them I'm not an expert of that field. You are the one. You will be the one going to do the integration itself. So I will refer to you as experts, and I will never actually take decisions for you. So clearly define roles and responsibilities between them and me. So I just remind them that I'm here to coordinate, that my first role and most important role is to find the answers for them, to find the right experts to answer the questions, but not just blindly provide them answers as soon as possible. I prefer to take more time to provide the right answer instead of just I would say please them with telling them what they want to hear, because that's not what is happening during integration. So it's really like make sure that the roles are clearly defined, not overstep on their, I would say, core skills and competencies, which is a way to show them that I respect their role and I respect their activities. Um, Also being very consistent uh, between what I say and what I do. So always saying what I'm gonna do and do exactly what I said. So to make sure that this consistency will be clear over time, and that will definitely help to build trust. And this is kind of I would say the basement of the transparency that I want to put in place in this kind of projects. I would say the first thing is to attend the right meetings, especially for I would say the steering committees where they are expected to take some decisions or to provide insights for arbitration. So they need to show up at the right moment. Of course, they have priorities to deal with and competing priorities. So they might not attend to all the meetings all the time, and as a project manager, I would say I need to be aware of that. So it's also to better understand the sponsors I'm working with, to better understand their logic, better understand their way of working. So to make sure that I will fit to their way of working, and be able to actually mobilize them when I really need to. So it's a kind of balance to find with them. But I would say the first sponsorship involvement is definitely to show up at the right moment. Then to make sure they will have a room to express themselves and to provide their vision, because the sponsors first, I would say, responsibility and first activity is to provide a vision to the teams to make sure they understand where we go. So it's going to be to organize again the right meetups, town halls, or kickoff sessions, for example, to make sure they will have the room to express what they need to express, and that they will remain at the right level. They will know. They will not get involved like in tiny details to sort out, because we want to leave that to the experts. So they will have the right level, I would say, of involvement. Um, so that's going to be the second thing. The last thing I believe is to show their face um, on a regular basis and at a minimum, which means going on site is for me critical. They don't have to wait to have something to do, something to tell, to really go on site, because actually that's what is exactly expected by the teams from the company we acquire. Many sponsors, many managers, actually sales, for example, they will wait for um, uh, a client's visit to go on site from a company because they want to meet the client. But by doing so, they are telling to the teams of the company we acquire, I will come just to see your client, which somehow means I don't care about you, but I care about your client, which is definitely not the message you want to carry to the teams. So if you show up, um, I would say for no much reason, just to here to be with the team, to sit with them, just to listen to them, to be a little bit available for a coffee, for a lunch. That's where you're gonna, as a sponsor, capture a lot of very valuable information, insights about how the integration is going, how do people feel, what do they fear. So it's to show some to open yourself actually to the team, so they can bring you the what you're expecting. They know they know that you are a sponsor or a manager, and that you are not here to solve their problems on from their day-to-day activities. So they will elevate the debate, and they will just get back to you with the most important things they have to deal with. But that will be my last I would say advice for the sponsors is not to wait. Um, I would say any occasion to go on site and to visit the teams, because that's sending the wrong message. So of course, confronting bluntly any sponsors is always something very tricky to do. So I would say uh, it might be done, but it will be really at the last. If it's only the last chance that you have. So for me, that's really the the last the very last move to do. Um, if a sponsor manager has different priorities, um, great. Let's listen to those and better understand what he's really expecting and what he wants. Therefore, I will be able to bring them what they want, what they really take care about, and somehow will show them how integration of a newly acquired company could benefit to their own objectives. It's kind of always the same thing, and this refers to human dynamics. Anyhow, uh, if they have different objectives, maybe we are not aligned with those objectives. So let's try to align with those and bring the value and bring the information they are actually looking for. Um, and if, let's say, for example, the steering committee um, uh, doesn't get the attendance which is expected to really run the integration, and let's say one sponsor doesn't show up on a regular basis, at some point, we can also revamp the I would say the governance structure if need be, and that's where that would be the first question to ask, actually, just to go see the sponsors in one-to-one again around the coffee machine and just tell them, actually, you didn't show up last time or the two last times, the last two steering committees, so basically we didn't see you for the last 2 months. Why is that? Is there something you believe doesn't work in the governance? Do you think we should change something? Is it like um, is it about like the topics we discuss and you do not feel connected to, and basically you're not very interested about that, or is there something else? And do you think we should change the governance? Do you think we might actually change the frequency? Um, do you want to? Do you have any topic you would like to put at the agenda? So, of course, if we put something that he's interested into, he might show up to discuss about it. These are the kind of questions you just need to look for. What really will take someone to participate and to be more engaged. So you need to know what he wants, what he's looking for, and try to slightly, I would say, change and adapt your governance structure and dynamics to make it happen. Usually, I would refer to my project charter as a certified project manager. That's where actually I would initially, before launching the project and in the best case scenario, just before the closing, set up my governance structure, define the ultimate sponsor of the project, which might be, and that depends of the organization. In some organization, I mean, in my past experience, it was either the P&L owner of the acquisition. So let's say for one business line, we are acquiring a company which fits into this business line, and that will be the P&L owner who will be responsible of the integration ultimately. So it will be the ultimate sponsor I will ask to arbitrate. In other projects, the direct sponsor was the CFO. So I knew from there that actually any decision will be taken on the basis of how much it costs, how much it's going to bring, how much it's going to impact the synergies and the either cost or synergies, revenue synergies. So, but that will be my way to go, and I know that if I address any decision to the CFO, at some point the terms euro or dollars has to be somewhere in the sentence, because I know that is what he's going to ask ultimately. That's a funny example, but that's actually like the reality. It will translate somehow in a clear figure at the end of the day. So my first answer will be make sure to define the ultimate sponsorship before we start the project, and then if we don't necessarily have one specific sponsor, because it happened to me that actually the sponsorship was actually diluted over the whole board of directors, for example. I will make sure to have like specific steering committee with all of them, request their attendance to take some decisions, and that will be clearly stated a few days in advance before the meetup, before the steering committee, to make sure they will attend, they will be there to take the decision and support the decision. And I will not leave the room without a clear decision, and I will rephrase the decision until I get something clear. So, you will launch during a steering committee, you will just prepare a slide for decision, explain what the problem is, the different options, provide recommendation. Let's say, let's go for option A. There will be a debate. Everyone will give their advice, and especially in some French settings, everybody will agree that they disagree, and the discussion might end like that. But you still not have any decision here. So you will try to wrap up and make, I would say, a synthesis of the discussion and say, okay, someone said that, another one said that, we had a counter offer here. So all in all, do we still believe that option A is still the best, or is there any voice that will go against this? And if we don't have anyone saying anything, I will conclude that we go for option A, and that's what's going to be in the minutes that I will send within an hour after the meetup, and that will be sent and transferred to all the integration, I would say, leaders, so they will be clearly aware of what is the decision taken and the way to go. When you say these kind of things, if someone, and especially at the sponsors level, at the board director level, if someone kind of deeply disagree with your option A, for instance, they will raise their voice because they don't want this information to go out like within an hour after the discussion. So it will force them to really kind of, I would say, argue or at least raise their voice to get to a conclusion. That's kind of a typical example of what's happening. Clearly, one of the key, how can I say, one of the major obstacle for an integration is definitely the role and responsibility metrics defined. There's so many decisions to be taken over an integration that, of course, at some point there will be some gaps, and there will be some topics which nobody really think about before, and that we don't have like a responsible person for. Of course, the other case that happened quite extensively over an integration when integrating a system is the dependencies of different topics and decisions over different areas. So of course, it happened that we have to take a decision on a timeline, I would say, and that will refer to IT, which is necessarily around the corner to migrate from one from one system to another. We need IT teams to be involved, of course, and we will have to go to deal with the business lines, I would say, or support functions responsible person as well. So you need to have those people, the IT leader, and let's say HR or finance leader around the table to take a decision. So clearly, role and responsibility metrics is role and responsibility metrics definition is the PMI responsibility for defining it. That's clear. We act as PMI leads, as project manager here, and we are not here to take the decision because the seat is empty. We are just to make sure that there is someone sitting on the chair to take the decision. So that would be clearly the role of the PMI here, to make sure someone will be in charge, and actually to point out any issue when again one seat is empty. That could be the yeah. I believe it quite covers both of your questions. So the first, I would say, common mistake that we do over integration is to think that the acquiring company's culture will actually take over the acquired company's culture. It doesn't happen like this. It's culture is not something you can wipe out and just replace by something else, because it's deeply rooted in practices, in rituals, in people's behavior that have been built and sedimented years after years, that actually you can't change them from one day to another. So that's the first, I would say, common mistake that we make. And when, for example, implementing a process, let's say an HR process, you are an acquired company and you want to apply your HR process to the company you just acquired, it cannot happen overnight, because people won't change their behavior and the way of doing things like from one day to another. So the common mistake is really to think that actually culture is not going to be a blocker for any change. I quote Peter Drucker on that. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Whatever strategy you have, culture at some point will just block your strategy, and even the best strategy will be endangered by culture mismatches. So to overcome this, indeed, I use some frameworks to analyze the culture. It's a lot of feeling and listening, of course, that will complement, I would say, those methodologies. But if I refer to Gert Hofstede 6 dimensions model, the one I use the most for example, will be the uncertainty avoidance dimension. The way people manage uncertainty and how creative they can be to avoid to manage this uncertainty will be a critical element in an integration framework. And in one of my past roles and PMI role, I was in a company who was like fearlessly risk taker, when the acquired company was very risk adverse. So of course, every move we were planning to do, everybody from the acquired company will start to freak out instantly, because they were not used to have such a bold kind of approach. So it comes with, so first you have to assess this gap in the way we manage uncertainty and we manage risk, because of course related, and it comes with some explanation. And I actually had this conversation with the risk director from the company we acquired, telling them, you will see in the next month, we're going to take a lot of risks that you would certainly not take. And this comes from this difference in risk avoidance kind of dimension evaluation I had done before. So I would explain this a little bit more in details, and it takes like 5 minutes actually. So that being said, we know that we are different in the way we approach risk, but the one argument I was giving to the risk director was, look in the past, from experience, we did that already. We had the same kind of risk difference, risk management difference in the approach. But what I can tell is we take that much risk because we have the teams to manage those risks, and the teams we use to do the integration are able to manage that kind of level of risk because they know how to do, they know how to react, they have the skills, they have the capacity to react very quickly. So we take that level of risk because we have trained people to do so, and you can be sure that actually we're going to use those capabilities to approach that kind of level of risk. And somehow you have to display some very small but clear examples on how it happens on a day-to-day basis, and that's where people get to better understand what is the risk approach, the difference between the risk approach and how you manage and how you bridge the gap when there is one. And
Yeah.
it's and this is related to actually about um, how to perform in any environment. The more you, I would say, visualize, the more you kind of structure your approach, you define what you're going to do step by step. So it's easier to explain to the people who are not aware of that. Uh, so this is what's going to happen. This is the way we're going to do. Uh, it of course it helps the people to better understand and to feel more confident in the way we're going to manage things, and that's the reason why, going back to PMI, why it's important to have a PMI framework and to have to prepare a plan before going into the integration process, because actually that will help to build trust from the teams which you are integrating. If you show up to a kickoff, let's say for finance department integration, and you don't have any idea on exactly what you're going to happen, what is the target operating model we're going to converge to, which are the tools we're going to use, in front of you, the stakeholders from the acquired company we just freak out because they are like, okay, these guys just bought us out a couple of weeks ago. They have no idea where we are heading to. They don't know exactly how we're gonna do it. So there is a fair chance that we're gonna get lost on the way, and this is gonna be very costly in terms of workload, in terms of effort, because we're gonna have to deploy a lot of effort to just understand where we go. On the other end, if you show up to a kickoff and say, okay, we know how to do um, finance department, finance activities integration. This is divided in X subtopics. Each subtopics, we have one key contact that you can refer to ask any question you have. We have templates that we have to fill in together during workshops to better assess the gaps between your organization and our organization. Of course, we have a target operating model, which is this, but we know that we're going to have to adapt on the way. So we're going to co-build this target together with a baseline, which is, of course, we have to define a model that will be harmonized over the group, but we're going to have some room for adaptations. You already win the battle because people just leave the room by thinking like, okay, those guys, they know where they go. We feel confident we're going to reach the objective here because it seems that they know exactly what they are doing. So of course you feel more confident on the way the integration is going to work. It's so of course there's a lot of I would say criteria here to assess, but for me the most important thing is that an independent consultant does not I would say work for a brand, uh, or at least works for his own brand and is putting himself in front of the job. So he's the one standing, he's the one doing the job. He will never be replaced. He's putting his own reputation on the line, and that's where you will, um, of course, I would say get a better kind of level of commitment, I would say, from an independent consultant than over a firm that will have a need an agenda somehow, will be able and will use, I would say, their capabilities to replace the people when they need to, which is something that will most likely not happen with an independent consultant. So I would say that's the main element for me to have independent consultants involved over, I would say, any consulting firm, because you are dealing directly with the one who is performing the task. It will have no hierarchy to refer to. It will have no ever any other agendas, and it will be focusing 100% of your project. The moving from the corporate world to the independent consulting world, even if I was a consultant before, so I've seen like different setups here. If you put yourself on the line, you must know exactly what you want, the way you're gonna do things, and you cannot hide behind anything else. So, from a personal and professional point of view, it helps to, I would say, fine-tune the way you want to work, your ideas, because you need to stand for yourself and not for anyone else or for any brand. So it helped to kind of strengthen your vision, strengthens your practices, and sharpen your, I would say, your way of doing things, and of course saying those, which is a very good thing somehow, because you're not representing anyone, any brand, firm, or whatsoever. It's difficult, but you need to stay aligned with your beliefs and what you really want and what you really think is good for the sake of the project you're running. Usually, so the PMI role is a way to embody the integration. So it's very important for the acquiring company to actually have someone responsible for the work of integration, and that's going to be the PMI somehow. Nonetheless, the PMI, even if it embodies the function, so it's the one to go if you have any question about integration, still it doesn't make the PMI director, whether it's actually an internal resource or an external resource, to be the one responsible for all the issues related to the integration. Because at the end of the day, the whole group, the whole company is responsible for integrating another company. So the PMI role is a coordinator, is a translator, is of course a project manager that will make sure that we keep the pace, we hit the targets, we hit the deadlines, but is not the one accountable for the results, the ultimate results, and for instance for the synergies. You do not fire a PMI lead because you don't make the synergies on a deal. It's not going to happen, and that's, I would say, a difficult thing to integrate when hiring a PMI. Again, either internally or external. I would say a common mistake that could be made when hiring an external, an independent PMI would be to look for a simple executant of the integration itself. A senior, seasoned PMI manager director will bring a lot of experience on the table, and therefore can play a role not only of a consultant, but also as an advisor. If, of course, is going beyond the pure project management, I would say, activities is expecting to run over a project. But that's where I believe being an independent consultant is a strength, is that you can more easily step out of your project manager role to give insights and to kind of coach as well. I would say a board of directors, for example, which will be very keen to listen to an external party who has no hidden internal agenda, for instance, because they will speak up for the sake of the project and for the sake of the success of the project. So the common mistake would be to hire someone just to execute a project, when actually it's way more than this. And that's part of the added value that will bring an external party in this kind of project, because again, it's not just a simple project; it's a very transformational project. So I would say that every leader, every corporate manager or sponsor or director will actually learn a lot through an acquisition and through an integration. So they have to be open to listen and to learn, because there is no one integration that looks like another one. But basically, there's of course techniques and tactics and templates and frameworks that can be developed and applied. But there must be room for adaptation. And the thing is that directors usually don't do integration as often as independent consultant would do. They repeat it like many times, this exercise. They know how it starts, they know how it ends, depending on the way you manage on the way, and they can anticipate better the outcomes of any decision or any actions overtaken during an integration process. I would say it will. It's something. It's a learning process, of course, but the freelancer might expect somehow to execute a project, and if I would say the common mistake of the freelancer would be to not leave enough room for adaptation to its client. That's most likely the most difficult thing in consulting, is that you change of working environments on a regular basis, meaning you have to adapt to new people, new way of working, and new practices. So trying to reproduce exactly the same model that worked in a different setup, in a different environment, in a different country, in a different organization, might be a common mistake. So make sure to remain very adaptable, because the environment of the integration will make a very big difference on the way to integrate. And therefore, of course, models, framework can be leveraged and will be leveraged, of course, because they will help to speed up the process. Nonetheless, always leave room for adaptation to the organization which is acquiring, and also to the acquired entity. I will highlight here the quote from Peter Drucker again and again, because that's I mean, even I would say studies about PMI do highlight the impact of cultural mismatch. Is still one of the most underrated dimensions over integration. So culture eats strategy for breakfast, um, and I have proof of this on a daily basis. So whatever you can have the best templates, the best framework in place, very structured, well defined, the good governance in place. Never underestimate the impact and the impact of the culture over an integration process. I'm thinking about something around the practical toolbox we put in place. So a common question would be, what are the common tools that you use, or the common what would be the definition of the one-to-one, the 101 toolbox of the PMI? And I would have highlighted the fact that, of course, there is, like, the project management toolbox is the one to go, because many integration teams do lack of pure project management methodologies. It usually goes for the leaders who are involved in integration, because all the companies, most of the companies cannot afford to have a pure PMI team to manage integration. Therefore, they will rely on departments leaders, which are operational teams, operational leaders, but not pure and specific project management professionals. So that would be the first key elements to have, is really to make sure to have like a solid toolbox, and I would say project management methodologies in place, because this is still a project. But that's not the only thing you need to have, and that relates to my previous answer about cultural management and multicultural environments management. I would say there is a set of soft skills that are required to manage integration, and that comes with multicultural management toolbox, such as the one we discussed about the methodologies around the multicultural or cultural gaps assessments, and there's many different elements here related to change management toolbox. So what is the toolbox of the PMI? Solid project management toolbox, multicultural management, I would say methodologies, and change management tools and methodologies.